My name is Sarah Mitchell. I used to believe every family had its secrets. I just never thought mine could destroy everything I knew about love, trust, and who I really was. It started 2 weeks after my mother's funeral. I was sitting alone in her house, the same old farmhouse I grew up in, surrounded by half-packed boxes and a silence that felt heavier than grief. She had passed away quietly in her sleep, leaving behind a lifetime of memories, a garden she loved, and one small sealed envelope hidden inside her dresser drawer. It was addressed to me, to Sarah. Open when you're ready. I almost put it away, thinking it was just another sentimental note. But something about the way her handwriting trembled made me open it. Inside, there were only two things: a faded photograph of a man I didn't recognize, and a single line written in my mother's shaky handwriting: "Find him, and you'll understand everything I couldn't tell you." At first, I thought it was some emotional farewell, but then I turned the photo over and saw the date. It was taken a year before I was born, and the man in the picture was holding a newborn baby. My stomach dropped. That baby wasn't me, and that man wasn't my father. I called my brother Mark and told him what I found. He went silent for a long time, then said something I'll never forget. "Sarah, maybe just let the past stay buried." His voice cracked, like he already knew something I didn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the photo, tracing the man's face, the gentle smile, the strong jawline, trying to see if any of him lived in me. The next morning, I drove 3 hours to the return address on the back of the envelope, a small town called Maple Ridge. It was quiet, the kind of place where time stands still. I found an old records office and spent hours digging through birth and hospital files. And then, I found it. A record with my mother's name, and mine. But under father's name, there was nothing. Blank. But attached to the file was another document. Sealed, old, and barely legible. I could only make out 2 words stamped in red ink. Adoption confidential. My hands went cold. My entire life, I thought I was my parents' biological daughter, but the paper in front of me said otherwise. My heart started racing. I left the office, tears burning my eyes, and sat in my car just trying to breathe. Who was I? Why didn't anyone tell me? Then I remembered my mother's letter. Find him. She wanted me to know the truth, even if it broke me. Through an old local directory, I finally found a name that matched the man in the photo: David Lawson. I drove to the address listed. It was a modest home with a front porch and wind chimes. My hands were shaking as I knocked. An older man opened the door. And when our eyes met, I knew. It was like looking into a mirror 20 years older. He didn't ask who I was. He just whispered, "You look just like your mother." We sat at his kitchen table for hours, and the truth that came out that night shattered the story I had lived for 35 years. My mother and David had been in love when they were young, but his family disapproved. He was from the wrong side of town, they said. My grandparents forced her to end it. When she discovered she was pregnant, she tried to reach him, but her father intercepted every letter. In desperation, she agreed to a private adoption arranged by a family friend. But when my adoptive father found out he couldn't have children, he took me in, and my mother chose to stay with him, to raise me as their own. She carried that secret her entire life, not out of shame, but out of love, because she didn't want me to grow up feeling like a mistake. David's hands trembled as he showed me a small box filled with old letters he had written, everyone returned unopened, and tucked inside was a photo of me from when I was 2 years old. He had found it in a newspaper years ago and kept it ever since. He said, "I watched you grow up from a distance, Sarah. Your mother made me promise never to interfere. She said, it was the only way to protect you." Tears rolled down my face. For years, I had blamed my mother for being distant, for her silences, for the things she never said. But now I realized every silence was love she couldn't speak. I stayed with David that night. He told me stories about her, the way she laughed, the songs she used to sing, the dreams she had before life forced her to choose. And for the first time since her death, I felt her close again. When I returned home, I went to her grave and placed the photo between the flowers. I told her, I found him, and I finally understand. Sometimes the truth hurts, but sometimes it heals in ways you never expect. I didn't lose a mother that day. I found two parents who had both loved me in different ways, from different distances. So if you've ever felt like parts of your past don't make sense, maybe it's because the people who loved you most were just trying to protect you from the pain they carried. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how my mother's secret set me free. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to Revenge Reelz and tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. Because the next story might just remind you that the truth always finds its way home.